Because this movie is solely a theatrical release, I wasn't sure how to approach it with a review on my channel because I mainly focus on streaming and internet content because I can't really re-watch a theatrical release as easily, and I also can't get good b-roll or images for y'all throughout the video when I do my recap portions. So I wasn't sure if I was even gonna cover Bros, but ever since it was announced, I did intend to watch it just because it is a milestone movie and I like rom-coms. So I decided in this video I'm gonna focus more on a general review, more of like, is it worth watching, tailored to people that haven't seen the movie yet. And since I can't really do a full recap like I usually do, I do want to discuss a lot of the social media discourse that's been going around about Bros. Hello and welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel. We do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about Bros, a new movie created by Billy Eichner. You might remember him from his Billy on the Street series that he had online and I think on TV as well. And Bros is a milestone movie because it is the first gay romantic comedy produced by a major studio released in theaters. Kind of a mouthful, but it is an important milestone. It means there has never been a mainstream gay rom-com released in theaters. I'm assuming they're counting Love, Simon as a teen movie rather than a rom-com, which they are different genres, but we don't want to erase the impact of Love, Simon. So let's start with my usual question: is Bros worth watching? This is tricky to answer because it really depends on what's worth seeing in theaters for you. For some people, nothing's worth going to the theaters anymore, and others might be down to go to the theaters more casually. For me personally, I don't like going to the theaters, and I only force myself to go to this because I love rom-coms, like I said, and I wanted to show support on that opening weekend monetarily because I was available, and I was excited to see the rom-com genre move forward. But I really don't like going to theaters. Like, for example, I really wanted to go see Don't Worry Darling just because of all of the controversy of it, and I feel like I would like it, okay. But that one came out like a week before Bros, and I was like, I'm not going to the theaters like 2 weeks in a row. That is just too much. So I chose Bros over Don't Worry Darling. You're welcome, Billy Eichner. With that all being said, I had a lot of fun watching Bros. It was a fun night out. I went with my boyfriend Cameron and we had a good time. It had a lot of good jokes and it felt authentic to the dating world today and very authentic to Billy Eichner himself. The character in the movie is very much like him. It feels kind of like a proxy of him because the main character is also a public persona and has a reputation that's kind of similar to Billy Eichner. So it seemed like a accurate to his experience and sensitive portrayal of a gay man his age in the dating world. I actually found the tone to be a little bit masculine leaning for my taste. Like, I prefer over the top and hyper feminine media. And it was funny because it only dawned on me when I was getting ready to go see Bros. I started wondering, wait, is this movie gonna feel really masculine? Are they gonna choose a masculine tone for it because they chose a name like Bros? It would make sense. And the movie did live up to its name. I'm not saying it was like super bro-y and like toxic masculine. It just had like a masculine vibe to it all. For example, in contrast to this, Fire Island, which was a recent streaming movie that was also a gay rom-com and depicted the dating world for gay men, that one just felt more feminine aesthetically. Like, the color grading of it was like soft. There was just a softness to it. It's just a vibe. I'm talking about vibes here. I'm not talking about like they wore makeup and they didn't, because there's probably a similar amount of makeup in either movie. And I don't think either of them passed the Bechdel test, which was a whole thing. Watch my Fire Island recap for all of that. But it's cool that like two movies that came out in recent months that are both depicting the gay dating experience have totally different tones and they have some overlap, but they're totally different movies. And it's nice that now we have more options with LGBT media. So the thing I found strongest about Bros was just its commitment to authenticity. Obviously, I can't give firsthand approval to like, yes, this is totally accurate because I'm not a gay man, so I'm not in the dating scene. But I have seen feedback for Bros that says it feels very authentic and accurate. I consume a lot of gay media where I have heard a lot of interesting dating stories that seem to align with this movie. And most importantly, I know for a fact that the creator and a lot of the actors in Bros, all of the actors, I think, are part of the LGBTQ plus community, so you know that at least the movie is probably going to be authentic to their experience, or the creator, the writer, Billy Eichner's experience. But my point here is that in this movie, they didn't just take the rom-com heterosexual template and put gay people as the leads. I do think we're past that point in society, but I think it's still important to note because some of the like gay holiday movies I've seen, I think I've only seen one, Single All the Way, but I feel like those Hallmark and holiday gay movies sometimes just take the exact same plot of the straight ones and make them gay, and that's it, like not showing the differences between dating while gay versus dating while straight, which are completely different experiences. In Bros, they weren't trying to like shoehorn in rom-com tropes even. You have similar beats of a rom-com, but they're just not the same because dating is different. For example, they show polyamory, both like a polyamorous relationship and also just casual sexual encounters that have multiple people. They show Billy Eichner's character struggle with the pressures of making yourself more masculine to feel more appealing while dating. They even show the use of steroids to achieve like a certain body type that is favored in the gay community. And this wasn't a dating thing, but it felt like authentic. When you see Bobby, Billy Eichner's character, in his workplace, you see how he argues with his fellow LGBTQ plus coworkers because he works at a specifically LGBT museum. And it felt realistic to show that there is disagreements between gay men and trans women and lesbians and bisexuals, and those scenes had a lot of humor in them because they had a lot of people, a lot of funny comedians in it. But like the big enemy is, you know, the homophobes and the transphobes outside of the community, but there's also a lot of arguing that goes on within the community. So I think that was an important thing to show. And also adding to the authenticity were the sex scenes. The movie is rated R. It has graphic nudity. I mean, I don't think it has like penises in it, but you know, it has graphic sexual scenes. I'm normally a prude about sex scenes, I've said it before, and I'm more biased against like teen media having a lot of graphic sex scenes because a lot of times it feels creepy and exploitative. In a rom-com about dating that is rated R, I expect sex scenes, and it didn't feel like you were just watching a porno. It was like they were funny and awkward and romantic. So I really commend them on how they did the sex scenes. I think there were the moments that I laughed the most sometimes, and the sex scenes added to the story. They were important and relevant to the overall development of the characters and everything, so it was well done. As far as critiques go, I feel like my main complaint with the movie was how the main character of Bobby sometimes felt like his lines were a writer's room rather than like grounded in a specific person and character. And I do think that rom-coms just don't lend themselves well to subtlety, and I think subtlety is a little bit of what I was missing. Like Bobby was constantly talking about the differences between gay and straight people. He kept saying things like, gay people do this, but straight people do that, and I don't understand how straight people, and I feel like in real life I never hear gay people talk about straight people that much, and I imagine it was an effort to explain some things to straight audiences, but it was just kind of like I felt the writers talking to me through the character instead of like being immersed in just the character in the story and like really believing that Bobby was like a real person. And there were those meta moments where Bobby talked about how he was approached to make a gay rom-com the way presumably Billy Eichner was. And he talks about how difficult it would be to make a gay rom-com because how do you make it appealing to gay audiences? How do you make it not alienate straight audiences? And in the final product, I did feel that struggle a bit. Based on the trailer, I actually thought the entire movie was gonna be about Bobby writing the first gay rom-com, and like the whole movie was gonna be this meta thing, but it was just like a part in the beginning. I do think the movie did its best though, because like Bobby in the meta moment says, it is extremely difficult to strike that balance, and it's kind of like you can't win fully in either way. Like you either explain too much for the straights, or the straights have no idea what you're talking about the whole movie, and that balance is just so tough. I think they did their best, and it's unfair that representation movies have to even worry about all this, because straight movies don't have to think about, you know, representing an entire multifaceted community. I do think it was a smart strategy to make Bobby like an intellectual expert on the LGBTQ plus community and its history, because that allowed the movie to give little history lessons throughout that seemed very deliberate to educate potentially straight audiences or gay audiences that might not know things about history. We got these little history lessons within the context of the story because it's something Bobby is really passionate about. So like it makes sense for him to talk about these things and give like little lectures to other characters. But sometimes the script did feel too formal in this moments, and again, it's that clunkiness with Bobby's character that I feel like maybe they were putting, it's hard because generally I think the little history lessons worked throughout the movie. It's just sometimes they felt a little formal for a casual conversation. But there was humor intertwined that was fun. I think them arguing about the Lincoln letters was really funny, but was also educational if you didn't know about that part of history. If you liked Bros and want more content like it, you should probably check out Fire Island on Hulu if you haven't already, or if you liked Fire Island, then you might like Bros. I also want to recommend, if you liked Bros and like just LGBTQ plus media, watch the other two on HBO. I'm so obsessed with this show, and I've been rewatching it lately, and it's so good. It's such a good parody of Hollywood and pop culture. Critically, Bros has been well received. It has an 89% by critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 90% from audiences. But criticism has been kind of mixed on social media, and I'll be talking about that later. Let's go ahead and talk about Bros. Bros is a movie created by Universal Pictures. It is written by Billy Eichner, who is known for his Billy on the Street series and being an actor. And his co-writer was Nick Stoller, who apparently wrote the Neighbors franchise and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And then finally, Bros was produced by Judd Apatow, nepotism father of the Euphoria girl. Just kidding. Judd Apatow made Knocked Up, Bridesmaids, Trainwreck. Name any late 2000s or 2010s raunchy comedy, and Judd Apatow's probably behind it. And as far as the cast goes, they did make a big effort to cast LGBTQ plus people throughout, even for straight roles, I think, in this. And they do have lines in the movie where they express frustration at how straight actors often play gay roles and sometimes get big accolades for it too. So it's good that the casting of this movie stays true to those values, and they casted a lot of LGBTQ plus people. The main two leads are Billy Eichner and Luke McFarlane. Also notable names in the cast are T.S. Madison, Bowen Yang, Guy Brownham, Jim Rash, aka the Dean from Community. He was one of the people I was most excited for watching this. Oh, also Dot Marie Jones, aka the coach from Lizzie McGuire, aka the coach from Glee, but not Sue Sylvester, obviously. But I think she's a coach on Glee too. And the movie also has cameos from Deborah Messing, Ben Stiller, Simone from RuPaul's Drag Race season 13, but like out of drag, she's not playing Simone, she's playing a character. Also apparently Benny Drama, he's like a popular social media person. He was supposed to be in this movie and he like filmed and everything, but they cut his part out of the movie, which I was like, dang, what's the tea there? I don't know if there is tea, but let's move on to like the actual controversy of this movie. It's not controversy, but it is a hot topic on social media. So Bros underperformed at the box office. It released along with a movie called Smile, which is a horror movie that beat Bros in the box office. Bros fell short of its own projections, especially in like the middle of the country and the south. And I can firsthand confirm this because I live in Texas, in Austin to be fair. But even then, I had forgotten to buy my tickets ahead of time, and it was like 2 days before the showing I wanted to go to, and I was like, dang, it's probably gonna be full. And I go to buy tickets, and I was the first ticket sold for that 2 days before the premiere night of the movie. When I actually went, the theater was like half full. It was honestly really nice. At first I was really excited when I saw I was the first one, because I was like, yay, empty theater, hopefully no one else buys it. But then I was like, oh, this is probably not a good news for Bros. So there's been some social media talk about why Bros bombed at the box office. And the fire was fueled by Billy Eichner himself in a Twitter thread he posted. He expressed his disappointment on Twitter, saying, "Last night I snuck in and sat in the back of a sold-out theater playing Bros in LA. The audience howled with laughter, start to finish, burst into applause at the end, and some were wiping away tears as they walked out. It was truly magical, really. I am very proud of this movie." Rolling Stone already has Bros on the list of best comedies of the 21st century. What's also true is that at one point, a theater chain called Universal said they were pulling the trailer because of the gay content. Oh, a theater called Universal. So a theater phone called Universal Pictures to pull the trailer. But Universal convinced the theater not to. America, fuck yeah, etc., etc. That's just the world we live in, unfortunately. Even with glowing reviews, great Rotten Tomatoes scores, an A cinema score, etc., straight people, especially in certain parts of the country, just didn't show up for Bros. And that's disappointing, but it is what it is. Everyone who isn't a homophobic weirdo should go see Bros tonight. You will have a blast, and it is special and uniquely powerful to see this particular story on a big screen, especially for queer folks who don't get this opportunity often. So Billy Eichner obviously is disappointed about the performance of Bros. He pretty much solely pinned it on homophobia being the factor of why it underperformed. The people of Twitter, however, were quick to point out that it wasn't just straight audiences that didn't show up for Bros, it was also LGBTQ plus audiences that didn't totally show up. I personally agree there are more factors at play on top of the homophobia. So why did it underperform? I'm going to link below an article that I found really good by Matt Brennan for the LA Times. There's like rock music playing outside. The title of the article is called "Let Gay Art Bomb," and I found it to be kind of a nuanced take on the whole situation, so I really recommend reading that. And the main message of the article was that it's cool that as a society we're at the point where LGBT audiences now have options with their media. They don't just have one movie or one TV show to rely on to represent them. So Brennan in this article theorizes that we're not at a point where we're no longer at a point where LGBT audiences feel particularly obligated to go and support Bros. And that's what he means in the title about Let Gay Art Bomb. It's about like LGBT people for the first time are having the luxury of picking and choosing what media they want to pay money for and consume. Maybe they don't like rom-coms, maybe they don't like this type of raunchy comedy, or maybe they don't relate to Bobby's experience in the movie, but have to support it in order to get more gay art made. Billy Eichner's argument is that because Bros bombed, now that's going to close doors for LGBTQ plus media. It's tough because I see both sides, and it's possible that studios will find a gay rom-com too risky, but I also think studios in general just find rom-coms risky because they are right now, especially for theaters. And I think it's ironic that Billy Eichner originally criticized streaming, or he kind of gave an interview where he mentioned Bros was like superior to streaming. He didn't actually say that, but like it's how it came off. And of course, interviews always kind of edit things out of context a little bit to make it the best headline. Billy Eichner said, Bros isn't just like a streaming movie that feels disposable or something like that. A lot of people took offense because around that time was when Fire Island came out, which was kind of a really cool movie and people liked it. I liked it. I have a whole video on it. So people were upset that Billy Eichner felt like he was very deliberately condescending of a movie like Fire Island, to the point where Joel Kim Booster had to speak up and take the heat off Billy Eichner a little bit. He was a good sport about it, honestly, and kind about it. He could have gotten petty, but he didn't. So hopefully this box office underperformance does not lead to less gay media, but only time will tell. And in the article, Matt Brennan makes a point to say we shouldn't let up on studios. We should keep like requesting and voicing that we want more. Critics on Twitter kind of blame that Billy Eichner lacked star power to be a leading man, or that the marketing wasn't good enough, which I'm kind of surprised because I feel like I got advertisements for Bros from every direction. But I did follow Billy Eichner on Twitter already, so maybe I was already just like in the algorithm to get a bunch of Bros ads. And some critics just said that they simply weren't that interested in the movie or the story that was presented in the trailer. I think all these factors played into people's individual decisions, but I just think it's a tough time for theatrical releases these days, and it's just an uphill battle. Post-COVID just is not the same landscape, and there's so many options with streaming. I do think it is unfortunate that like around the same time Bros came out, you had a very gruesome true crime Dahmer series going on that also involves gay people, but in a much more tragic and sad way, and that was a big success. So I imagine that probably played into Billy Eichner's reaction too. I don't understand it personally. I'm not a true crime person. I don't watch gory shit like that, so I can't really speak to comparing two types of media, but I much prefer Bros any day over a true crime thing. I also find another benefit to streaming, which I think Bros could have maybe succeeded more on streaming, is that it's more accessible for people to make memes and share clips on social media and create more online buzz about it. Like, it's a much quicker turnaround. If like I saw positive reviews for it on my timeline, I can just click and start watching it if I want to. I do want to say though, there are exceptions. Don't Worry Darling had the most online buzz we've ever seen for a movie, I feel like, and it was in theaters only. So it's not impossible for theatrical releases to go viral because we just saw it happen. It's just more rare to memify a movie that's theatrical rather than on streaming. I just wonder how Bros would have done if it had been a dual theatrical and streaming release like Marry Me was, which apparently is the #1 grossing rom-com of the year, followed in second place by Bros. So I feel like a big factor in this underperformance is the rom-com genre being essentially dead these days. Like, to me, Judd Apatow feels like a relic of the 2000s and 2010s that is no longer that relevant post 2016. Like, they kept advertising Bros as from the creator of Bridesmaids or whatever in the trailer, and I kept being like, ew, that's like making me not want to watch it. Like, I was already convinced to watch it and you're trying to convince me not to, because that's just not my type of humor. Bros was definitely not that level, because I feel like Bridesmaids was like in that post-Hangover era where comedy movies were really raunchy, and Bros definitely elevates on that type of comedy. It's not that level. It's a little more grounded and relatable. So I don't know, I just feel like the Judd Apatow selling point was not the flex they thought it was. I don't know. I just feel like that was part of its downfall. I just feel like right now the rom-com genre is dead on arrival, and streaming is trying to perform CPR on it. It just feels like it's on the fringes. Like, people don't show up for rom-coms these days. Though on my Twitter feed at least, there is desire for it, but it's difficult to find what does a good rom-com now look like. But I think Bros does a good job. I think a movie like Look Both Ways that explores the multiverse concept does well. A movie like Marry Me that explores older people rom-com. Rom-coms are just in a weird place right now, and props to Billy Eichner for trying to move it forward, and he did his part, and we'll see where the genre goes from here, but it's holding on for dear life. And it's not all about box office numbers. As Billy Eichner said, he's very proud of this. There's been a lot of people loving the movie. It is a fun movie. It's a fun watch. If you are trying to go to the theaters, I recommend it as an option. If you want to wait for it to come on streaming, I don't blame you either, because that's my reaction to a lot of content these days. But it's a fun one, and if you like comedy, it's well done and it's fun, and it has cool people in it that I admire, that I like, especially the smaller characters. I feel more indifferent, I feel like, about the leads, but I'll give it a second watch on streaming when it comes out. And I'd love to know what you thought about Bros. If you watched it, if you plan to watch. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos once or twice a week about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!